In our headlines on this Thursday afternoon, January 11th, here on the peninsula. South Korea and its allies at the United Nations Security Council have condemned yet again the weapons deal sealed between North Korea and Russia, as officials raise some grave concerns about the broader implications of the collusion. Meanwhile, Seoul's central bank has decided to maintain its policy interest rate unchanged at 3.5% for the 8th session in a row, keeping an eye on money market jitters from efforts to restructure debt-riddled businesses. Ending months of speculation, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has granted the green light for spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, and we tell you what this means. Russia's use of North Korean weapons against Ukraine violates multiple UN Security Council resolutions, while it offers Pyongyang the chance to assess the effectiveness of its arms in actual combat. Now, these are the latest concerns raised by South Korea and its allies at the United Nations. Our Shin Se-byuk reports.
The U.S., during a UN Security Council meeting on Wednesday, condemned the weapons trade between North Korea and Russia, saying their, quote, abhorrent moves are targeting Ukrainians.
It's abhorrent that a permanent member of the UN Security Council is flagrantly violating Council resolutions to attack another UN member state.
The deputy U.S. ambassador also said that Russia is expected to use more missiles to destroy critical infrastructure and kill people in Ukraine. Russia, however, denied all allegations, saying the U.S. is spreading false information.
The U.S. seems to be spreading information that is wrong without going through the trouble of checking this beforehand.
South Korea also accused North Korea of using Ukraine as a test site for its nuclear-capable weapons, and added insights gained could lead to further arms exports by Pyongyang.
It can be further encouraged to export ballistic missiles to other countries and rake in new revenue to further finance its illegal nuclear and ballistic missile programs.
He also added that such moves pose a serious threat to the Korean peninsula. Wang's remarks came amid speculation that the regime might have sold new types of tactical guided missiles to Russia. South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik, in an interview with Yonhap News Agency on Wednesday, said that current speculation is in addition to previous allegations against Pyongyang of supplying short-range ballistic missiles to Moscow. Meanwhile, the NATO-Ukraine Council held a video conference on Wednesday following a slew of Russian airstrikes against Ukraine. During the meeting, NATO allies strongly condemned Russia's escalation in terms of airstrikes, as well as Moscow's use of weapons sourced from North Korea and Iran. They also pledged to provide Ukraine with major military, economic, and humanitarian aid, stating that their 2024 plans are worth, quote, billions of euros. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration has yet to witness any indication of an arms collaboration between North Korea and the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Now, this is according to White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby during a press briefing on Wednesday. It also follows confirmation by South Korean intelligence authorities of an earlier report by the Voice of America that claimed Hamas fighters were using North Korean weapons. The US and the UK are exploring their options of strikes against land-based Houthi targets in Yemen, following the group's latest massive attempt to disrupt commercial travel in the Red Sea that was thwarted by American and British warships. Our Lee Sing-jae has the latest.
Both the United States and the United Kingdom said Wednesday that they could take military action against Yemen's Houthi rebels after they repelled the group's largest attack yet on the Red Sea. Responding to the attacks, carrier-based jets and warships on Tuesday night shot down 21 drones and missiles launched by Houthis. The Houthis say they targeted a U.S. ship that they said was providing support to Israel, as they repeatedly claimed that any merchant vessels linked to Israel would be attacked in protest against Israeli offensives in Gaza. The latest Houthi attack was the 26th such attack on commercial shipping in the Red Sea since November 19th. During his trip to the Middle East, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Wednesday that there will be consequences for continued Houthi attacks in the Red Sea.
Again, all I can tell you is that, as we made clear, and many other countries made clear, there'll be consequences for the Houthis' actions. We've also repeatedly tried to make clear to Iran, as other countries have as well, that the support that they're providing to the Houthis, including for these actions, needs to stop.
Meanwhile, Blinken on Wednesday met Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in the Israeli-occupied West Bank following meetings with Israeli leaders. During the meeting, the two discussed post-war plans for Gaza, including steps towards the establishment of a Palestinian state. The U.S. envoy also discussed efforts to minimize civilian harm in the Gaza Strip and increase the delivery of aid inside the war-torn region, expressing support for a Palestinian state and encouraging administrative reforms of the PA. President Abbas told Blinken that no Palestinians should be displaced from Gaza or the West Bank. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And the Palestinian militant group Hamas claims it cannot guarantee the safety of its hostages if Israel fails to agree to a comprehensive ceasefire. The claim was carried by the Times of Israel earlier on Wednesday. Separately, Israeli defense authorities assert there is no structure in Lebanon that their troops cannot dismantle as tensions mount on their border amid Hezbollah assaults. Also, health officials in Gaza say over 23,000 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip since October 7th. On the local front, the cabinet reshuffle to advance the Yoon administration's economic and diplomatic agendas continued on Wednesday, and our senior correspondent Oh Seong has more on the latest appointments.
South Korea's top office named a new official in charge of economic security, and a new trade minister as Seoul this year aims to ramp up its economic diplomacy. The presidential office on Wednesday announced the Yoon Suk-yeol administration's latest reshuffle of key government positions, beginning with the National Security Council. Incumbent Economic Security Secretary Wan Yoon-jong was appointed to take the newly established position of the third Deputy National Security Advisor, given his diverse experience in academia, economic research and the business community, handling trade relations with the US and China. His position will be filled by An Se-yeon, Professor of International Relations at the University of Seoul, known as an expert in global affairs and energy security. This comes after a series of new appointments made across the foreign affairs and trade ministries as key figures in the administration gear up to run for the April parliamentary elections. With a stronger focus on economic security, the administration has realigned its personnel to address new emerging challenges that affect the export-dependent country. It has cited supply chain disruptions and fierce global competition to master core technologies that ultimately determine both economic and military prowess. On that note, the president approved former ambassador to the United Nations Cho Tae-yeol as the new foreign minister, a day after Parliament adopted a confirmation report, a process required for ministerial positions. Yoon's office named former journalist and current Overseas Public Relations Secretary Kang In-sun as the second Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, recognizing her familiarity with geopolitical affairs and public diplomacy. 3 other vice ministerial positions were also announced, including logistics and trade expert Chung In-kyo as the new trade minister to lead negotiations and resolve sticking points in trade, replacing An Deok-gun, who was recently promoted to Minister of Trade, Industry and Energy. Incumbent second Vice Minister Kang Kyung-sung, currently in charge of industrial policy, took the first Vice Minister position, with Ministry spokesperson Choi Nam-ho as his replacement. The top office on Wednesday also nominated Yoo Cheol-an, a former judge at the Seoul Central District Court, to lead the country's anti-corruption agency, which is a ministerial position requiring the National Assembly's approval. Oh Seong, Arirang News.
And in other news, as part of protocol under the UN Human Rights Initiative, South Korea has submitted its questions for the Universal Periodic Review of China. According to Seoul's newly appointed Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol on this Thursday, the initiative requires member states to face peer review of their human rights records every 4.5 years. China's 4th peer review opens on January 23rd in Geneva, during which member states can make inquiries about the country's human rights verbally on site or through written questions submitted in advance. Now, this is the first time that South Korea has handed in advance questions for China's review. As earlier forecast by economists here, South Korea's monetary policymakers have decided to hold their benchmark interest rate steady at 3.5% for the 8th session in a row. Our correspondent Shin Ha-young reports.
The Bank of Korea's monetary policy stance of freezing the key interest rate continued into the new year. Following the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting of 2024, the central bank on Thursday announced that it will keep the rate unchanged at 3.5%.
Although there's a continued slowdown in the inflation rate, it still remains at a high level, and there's significant uncertainty in the outlook. Therefore, we have decided to keep a tightened monetary policy and continue to assess the policy situation both domestically and externally.
This is the 8th consecutive time that the BOK has decided to freeze the rate. The base rate was raised to 3.5% in January of last year and has remained at that level since February, following 10 consecutive rate hikes to tackle inflation. Analysts say the BOK sees no need to raise the rate, as it is unlikely that the U.S. will further tighten its monetary policy. Concerns about high interest rates due to risks in real estate project financing are also thought to be factors that have deterred the BOK from further rate hikes. Real estate project financing involves using loans to fund real estate development projects with the promise of future project revenue as repayment. Higher interest rates and increasing construction costs have led to project delays, creating challenges for firms to repay their project financing loans. Taeyang Engineering and Construction, the 16th largest of those firms in Korea in terms of construction capacity, applied for a debt restructuring program late last month due to a liquidity shortfall as the company struggles to repay real estate project financing loans. Cutting rates immediately would be difficult. The country's inflation rate has stayed above 3% as of December, above the bank's target level of 2%. Also, rising household loans up for the 9th straight months in December are a factor to consider before cutting the rate. As the U.S. Fed indicated 3 rate cuts in 2024, the market's focus is now on the timing of the BOK's rate cut. The anticipation that the Fed may cut the rates as early as March has somewhat diminished amid a robust job market. If the labor market overheats, wages may rise, leading to increased spending and potentially triggering inflation. With that situation in mind, experts forecast a BOK rate cut as early as July, with Fed rate cuts expected in June. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Come Thursday in the U.S., the country's first exchange-traded funds holding bitcoins will kick off trading. Our Yoon tells us what this means.
On Wednesday, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission approved the first U.S.-listed exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, to track Bitcoin. According to a notice on its website, the 11 applications that were approved include BlackRock, ARK Investments, Fidelity, Invesco, and VanEck, and some are expected to begin trading as early as Thursday. The crypto industry has been beset by a string of scandals recently, but this move comes as a game changer for Bitcoin, as it will offer institutional and retail investors exposure to what is the world's largest cryptocurrency without directly holding it. Global market strategist at eToro, Ben Laidler, said that this ultimately will lead to more people owning crypto.
So I think it's another key step forward in the development of what is still by far the youngest, smallest, and most retail investor dominated of all the asset classes. And it's happening in what is by far the world's biggest capital market.
Analysts say that a heated battle between the spot Bitcoin ETFs is expected, and success will likely center around fees and liquidity. Some issuers are expected to undercut their own fees in the new filings this week, while for short-term speculators, liquidity could be more important than fees, which would make it easier for investors to quickly buy and redeem shares at prices that closely track the actual price of Bitcoin. After a decade of rejecting Bitcoin ETFs over concerns of how they could be easily manipulated, this green light marks a U-turn for the Securities and Exchange Commission, while its chair Gary Gensler remains a fierce skeptic of the crypto industry. Bitcoin ETFs could pave the way for other innovative crypto products in the future. Yoon, Arirang News.
Neighboring China was the world's largest car exporter last year. According to the China Passenger Car Association on Wednesday, the country exported 4.76 million vehicles between January and November last year, a 60% surge on year. Pundits are linking the latest performance to greater demand for eco-friendly cars and Tesla's Chinese factory, which serves as its primary export hub. Increased exports to Russia, which is facing sanctions from the West, are also believed to have played a part. Here in Seoul earlier on Wednesday, an annual award ceremony took place to applaud the efforts of those who sought to raise Korea's image overseas. Our Yoon was there.
The Korea Image Awards ceremony took place in Seoul on Wednesday. At the annual event, the Korea Image Communication Institute honors both domestic and international figures and organizations that have notably contributed to enhancing South Korea's global reputation. The Korea Image Stepping Stone Award was awarded to Genesis, Hyundai Motor Group's premium car brand, for promoting Korea's global image and prestige through its special brand experience. Last September, Genesis celebrated a significant milestone, having sold its 1 millionth car 7 years and 10 months after the brand's launch.
Providing the most comfortable and safe form of transportation in the world is always our priority, so we always try our best to bring new technologies and perfect quality.
World-renowned Swiss architect Mario Botta was presented with the Korea Image Stepping Stone Bridge Award in recognition of his contribution to introducing Korea to the world by designing award-winning landmarks including the Liu Museum of Art and the Gangnam Gyobo Tower, both located in Seoul. Another honoree was the globally acclaimed opera tenor Im Hyung-ju, who received the Korea Image Capstone Award for his achievements in the music industry, which has led him to be called the pioneer of Asian opera. Since its debut in 1998, he has set a record for having 19 out of his 20 solo albums reach #1 on Korea's classical album sales chart within a week of release, including his most recent album released in November 2023.
While I still have much room for improvement, I've been very lucky to receive many awards, but this award, named a capstone, is especially an honor for me.
The next winner was Laure Maffo, who moved to Korea from France as she fell in love with pansori, Korea's traditional musical storytelling. She received the Korea Image Flower Stone Award for promoting pansori not only in Korea and France, but also to the world. Each year, opinion leaders from a variety of countries gather at the ceremony with the ultimate aim of strengthening cultural bonds and promoting vibrant exchanges within our global community. Yoon, Arirang News.
In sports news, Team Korea is in Qatar, having arrived there on this Thursday for the Asian Cup. South Korea has reached the final 4 times, but has yet to clinch the Asian Cup since its second title in 1960. This year's squad includes key Europe-based star players, including Son Heung-min, Kim Min-jae, Lee Kang-in, and Hwang Hee-chan. Grouped with Jordan and Malaysia in Group E, Team Korea will play its first match against Bahrain on January 15th. The Asian Cup kicks off on Friday and ends on February 10th.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In Ecuador, a 60-day state of emergency is in place with updates on the chaotic outbreak of violence. President Daniel Noboa said Wednesday that his country is in a state of war against terrorism and vowed to continue the fight. Schools across the country were closed on Wednesday, along with many businesses. Ecuadorian police said the same day that 70 people had been arrested since Monday in incidents including the takeover of a TV station. Authorities also said that more than 100 guards and staff were still being held hostage by prisoners, with violence reported in at least 6 prisons following the escape of Adolfo Macias, the leader of Los Toneros gang, on Sunday. 2 police officers were killed in Guayas province on Tuesday, with explosions reported in several cities. Out of 7 other police officers kidnapped around the country, 3 have been freed. President Noboa says the violence is a reaction to government plans to build a new high-security prison for gang leaders. Taiwan will hold its presidential election on Saturday. Taiwan's foreign minister has said Beijing is trying to influence the election. Foreign Minister Joseph Wu said on Tuesday that China has operated interference efforts in every election since Taiwan was democratized, and that China's global objective is that they want to use Taiwan as a test ground. If they're able to successfully shape the results of Taiwan elections, they will try to apply their tactics on other countries. China has imposed import restrictions on Taiwan and invited local politicians on all expenses paid visits to China, aimed at increasing support for pro-China candidates. Under Taiwan's anti-infiltration laws, its authorities are prosecuting almost 200 Taiwanese local leaders who were invited on the trip. Beijing wants Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party ousted by their opposition Kuomintang and has said that Saturday's election is a choice between war and peace. Online retail giant Amazon said on Wednesday that it will lay off several hundred employees from its subsidiaries Twitch and Prime Video. The company's internal note, seen by media outlets, said Amazon has identified opportunities to reduce or discontinue investments in certain areas. Live streaming company Twitch disclosed that it will lay off some 500 employees, which is about 35% of its workforce. This follows last year's wave of US tech layoffs, where more than 27,000 jobs were cut by Amazon, alongside Microsoft and Facebook's layoffs of 10,000 employees each, and Google's 12,000 layoffs. Nepalese spiritual leader Ram Bahadur Bamjan, known as Buddha Boy, was arrested late Tuesday local time in Kathmandu on charges of sexual assault of a minor and kidnapping. Police said Wednesday that Bamjan attempted to flee the authorities by jumping from a second-floor window, but was taken into custody. Officials also confirmed that they seized some $250,000 worth of Nepalese and foreign currency from his house during the arrest. 33-year-old Bamjan became famous in Nepal, as many believe him to be the reincarnation of Siddhartha Gautama, or Buddha, born in southwestern Nepal 2,600 years ago. Kim Xiang, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. A high-quality face mask is a must to protect yourself from a dust storm if you're in western parts of Korea. We're blanketed in high levels of ultrafine dust today, with a dust advisory issued. Dust levels will be 2 to 3 times higher than normal all day, and west of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-do provinces will see dust levels rising as the day goes on today. We are already getting into mid-January, but it doesn't feel much like it though. Dust mixed with haze is not only blurring the skyline, but also lowering visibility. It is one stuffy day. Daily highs are slightly higher than yesterday, Seoul at 5 degrees, Busan and Jeju see highs of 11 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And unfortunately, more dust will blow in tonight. Temperatures will stay higher than norms, and so will dust levels for the next few days. There could be light snow in mountainous regions late tonight, with another round of wintry precipitation in the forecast for Sunday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That ends Thursday's afternoon newscast. Coming up next is our daily panel session, so do stay with us. Thank you for now.